Here comes X's and O's with Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm Paul Allen. Before we chat Vikings football, earlier today at his Wednesday press conference, Kevin O'Connell shared his thoughts and opened his heart regarding Damar Hamlin, the fallen Bill from Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I just, before we get into this week and our game coming up this Sunday in Chicago, I definitely wanted to just take a moment and touch on what occurred on Monday night with Damar Hamlin. This is my first time, getting a chance to speak with you since that happened. It's been an incredibly tough 36 hours for our league, and from my perspective, just want to continue to express our concern and our support. Everyone in our building is constantly having Damar on their minds and continuing to pray and put our thoughts towards hopefully some good news and his full recovery. Anytime that something like that happens, it is so rare in our league, but it puts a lot of things in perspective, not only for our players, but our coaches. I think it did the same thing for fans and media alike, about what these players risk when they go step in between the white lines, and, the love they have of this game and what it means to them to be teammates, and the brotherhood that exists in this NFL, I think has been on full display since what occurred. And I want to take a moment and just commend Sean and Zach, both head coaches the other night, how they handled it, the leadership that they showed in incredibly difficult circumstances. I think the medical response and all the systems that are put into place, the over 30 medical personnel for a variety of different emergency responses are in place on game day in the event such a type of emergency like that occurs, and there's just a lot of people that hopefully get recognized for the way they handled it in that moment when the time is right. But as of right now, all of our thoughts and all of our emotions and prayers and intentions are for Damar, his family, and the Buffalo Bills organization during this time, and we'll continue to hope that we do get good news and continue to get good news, however we can.
Kevin joins us now for X's and O's, courtesy of the Minnesota Lottery, and off what transpired in Green Bay. Help me with this. Tell me if human nature hits you and others like this within the 24-hour rule parameters of a game, where the wins are great and you have 12 of them, but the losses, or some losses at times, can feel like 5 losses, where the wins sometimes don't feel like 5 wins. Is that accurate, and is that human nature?
Yeah, it's 100% accurate. I told my wife, earlier this week that, the wins, you appreciate every one of them, you cherish every one of them, but something about this job, when you're responsible for so much and you feel like everything we do as a football team and an organization is my responsibility, when the losses come, you just take them that much harder, and it makes you want to get right back to work and try to rectify some of the things that you can control. And I think I've learned that this year, and in now 16 games of the ebbs and flows of a season, and even as high as the good times have been this year, you definitely feel weeks like last week, for sure, maybe more so. I think 5 times is probably a good number, more so than the highs of the wins. You feel the lows of those losses.
And by the way, thanks for sharing what you did earlier in your press conference on Wednesday about Damar Hamlin. That was needed and a very nice touch. Now, during the Packers game, you didn't freak out when Jair clearly fouled JJ, yep, and then taunted him, and you were right there next to it, and didn't go crazy or anything, which was an indicator from afar to me, because I had it on my binoculars, that is kind of like, I've just seen so much this year of stuff like that I just got to move on. Is that fair?
Yeah, it was more so about the situation of the game too, making sure that I was moving on to the next play. I made sure I had some dialogue with the officials after that drive ended, just so that they were very much aware of my feelings towards what took place on that play, both during and then more importantly after. JJ sees a lot and deals with a lot throughout the game, a lot of great players do. Certain things that other teams try to get under his skin with and try to get him off his game. The growth he's shown this year has been tremendous, both through the epic performances he's had and ultimately where, together we reflect on a day like the other day for him. And, in our attempts to make sure it doesn't happen again, we all hold a responsibility, JJ included, myself, Kirk, our offense, our really team in general, of making sure that we're doing whatever we can to put our football team in positions to win. And that involves getting your best player much, much more involved in the game, no matter how many double teams or split safety defenses we see. We've got to find ways to help JJ like we have throughout the year, but just be a little bit more consistent when we have to have it.
But doesn't that also include recognizing that situations, no matter the superstar you are or the bottom guy on the roster,
Yep.
things are going to happen where you just sometimes can't get them back.
Yep.
And if that's the case with him, he's not the first superstar to go through something like that. So from a coaching standpoint, coach, father, psychologist, so much during the game and that game, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the real disappointing thing were just some of the opportunities he did have that maybe didn't come to life with him being targeted, or just multiple kind of errors going on around there that were unlike what our offense had done of late, and really affected kind of the big picture of the day, which was a bad taste in our mouths for really everybody, and none more so than JJ.
Now, the way the season is developed through these 16 games, Bears this weekend, it's the finale, then the postseason. Maybe part of the preach is, and this is really simplistic to say it, and it's easy for me to say it from my standpoint, is if we can just keep this thing anything close.
Yeah.
Into the fourth quarter. And if we're down 14 middle of the third quarter, ain't nobody tripping. Let's just keep it close into the fourth quarter, because the team has displayed fearless equity.
Yep.
You have fearless equity, and it can't be disputed. Now, that's easy to say, keep it close into the fourth quarter, but are there ways to construct games to chew the clock or whatever to keep it close into the fourth quarter?
Yeah, I don't even know as much as there's a way to try to craft that, as much as I know the things that prevent you from doing that.
Yeah.
Turning the ball over like we did,
Yeah.
not capitalizing on a Metellus block punt that put us at the 1 yard line. Some things defensively we could have done better to really what I'm looking forward to doing with our team, not only this week but moving forward, is just finding ways to when that adversity hits, what type of play can we have out of our best players in those moments, to kind of stop the bleeding, if you will, and make sure that we limit the negative football from there and just play good football, structurally, fundamentally sound, regardless of circumstance. When we've done that this year, PA, the results have found a way, maybe close in the end, but to find a way in our favor. And I think our team's banked that feeling, and they certainly know when we don't play to our standard, and then we don't find a way to limit that momentum going the other way, it can get away from you in this league. And we've got a couple, 2 or 3 experiences of that this year, but we also have 7, 8, 9 other ones where we've been able to find a way. And I think we'll rely on both experiences, come playoff time.
Yeah, public or media attention, whether it's, Kevin's the greatest coach in the history of the game and this team's the greatest in the history of the game, or worst and worst. That has to be elevator music, I would imagine, in one ear, out the other. Because you go to Philadelphia and it doesn't work the right way after you kill Green Bay. See, look at this. This team's not as good as we saw. Well, you won 7 in a row after that.
Yep.
Bad game against Dallas. Won 4 of your next 5, including beating Buffalo. Now the Green Bay situation, where there's just so much with your position that has to be elevator music, right?
Well, I think it has to be the one thing important that we do as an organization is we always have to look at reality. We know the why. We know the things we did or did not do to prevent us from the outcome that we really wanted to have up in Green Bay, just like we did after Philly, just like we did, after that Dallas game. We found ways this year to respond to adversity. Sometimes on short weeks, this will actually be the first time after a loss we have a regular week into a Sunday game where we can go ahead and go to work and really look to a man, coach and player. As you do each and every week in this league, you're always trying to get better, but a result like that makes you have a little bit of a gut check of where we are at this moment as a football team. If that can be a possible outcome, what can I do better as the head coach, helping in all phases of our team to make sure that we're improving? Because we're constantly, although a lot of those narratives that tend to be elevator music can sometimes be formed out of the views of the past.
Yep.
I understand that. That's part of taking over the responsibility of being a head coach, but more so than any of that, dealing with that noise and things of that nature. It's dealing with your team and your coaches and making sure from my chair leading everything that I'm doing everything that I can to make sure that we're going to be the best possible team we can be this Sunday and then moving on into the playoffs.
Kevin, whether it's your days as a player with Belichick or winning a Super Bowl with Sean, with McVay, have you learned that there's absolutely a correct way to handle really good teams at the ends of seasons to make sure they're at their best for what's next?
Yeah, I think there's a combination of how you're always trying to grow, whether it's offense, defense, special teams, grow your schemes, what you've done already, how you can build off those things. Our quest of being very good situationally never ends. I mean, we're constantly talking about it despite throughout the season being at our best at the end of these games and finding ways to execute in a lot of situations we spend a lot of time talking about. We'll still do those things each and every week. We'll still emphasize that in our Saturday walkthroughs, our weekly 2-minute, whatever it is, knowing that that'll be really important. And then I think the hope is, although we've had some injuries here late in the year, that we can have the freshest possible team, whether it's managing snaps, how we go about the week of preparation, making sure when that ball gets kicked off each and every Sunday or whatever day we get to play in the playoffs, we have the best possible team from a physical standpoint, sports performance, all those things. I think it's a combination of a lot, but the one thing I do know is we've got some time logged together as a football team, dealing with adversity, experiencing triumphs of victory, and also having to look each other in the eye after some tough outings that has made us ultimately PA the football team we are now, and gives me confidence for what we're going to be able to accomplish moving forward.
And when you do finalize who's going to play and how much for the Bears game.
Yep.
The weird part of that is there's the inherent assumption that somebody absolutely is going to beat somebody else.
Yeah, which you can't do in this league. Yeah.
I mean, it's just so weird.
Yeah, I think the big thing for us is we've got to have a good week of preparation, and then we've got to have whoever is on the field for us at any point in time in the game on Sunday. It's going to be a challenge going to Soldier Field, playing a team with some good young talent. I got a lot of respect for their coaching staff and the environment that it will be. A great opportunity for us to try to just play good football. And we're going to need to against this type of team, and a divisional team. Playing them a second time leads you into understanding that it's a good rep for us to show improvement over last week, but also there's a good chance we're going to play a team in the playoffs for a second time.
Yep.
At least one, maybe more, that we'll have to have the ability to game plan and improve off of the things we may or may have not done against that opponent previously. So I think it's a learning op for us all around, regardless of how we go about this game this week. We want to win the football game, but we also want to make sure that we're at our best for what's out in front of this team.
Off that, and last one. Say you do hook the New York Giants at U.S. Bank Stadium in a week and change as your first playoff team. Does the prep for that kind of begin this week, or does any of it?
I think it's important that we focus on the task at hand.
Yes, sir.
We're always working out in front with maybe breakdowns and gathering information. The good thing is, having just played that particular team, there's only so much that can change not only who you are as a team, but what the team they try to do schematically against us. I do think it's unique, though, the type of team we have, and specifically our offense. We tend to see, kind of see people's cards of how they want to try to defend us, and we could work off that, but also try to anticipate the next steps for them in their quest to try to defend us. So there's a lot of things that we'll be hard at work on to prepare for this week, but also our evolution as a football team here in year one for me as the head coach. We're always trying to get better, and there's there's a lot of things I think we can do that will help us versus the Bears, that will translate to helping us versus whoever we get in the playoffs.
You're terrific. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Pierre.
Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. I'm Paul Allen. Keenan McCardell joins X's and O's next on the KFAN Minnesota Vikings Radio Network.